So don't take that.
We won't take up.
Yes, let's be the
Pods.
in Springfield.
One. The Beatles. I became distracted halfway through that because bits of your beard have Maxibon in them.
Yeah, I know. It's just a
yeah.
constant.
Do you want to maybe...
Just for the listeners' sake.
Just for my sake, because it's quite distracting. Thank you, they're all gone now. Welcome to this Eat My Shorts.
Yes, this Eat My Shorts episode of Pods in the Key. So
Oh.
you're drinking water, Springfield.
I wasn't prepared for that. Now, since we've got Control Pods in the Kia Springfield,
Yep.
and the video game subcategory, we've got Taste My Shorts, the food category of Eat My Shorts.
Which we've yet to do. Well, we did the Butterfinger one.
The Butterfinger one. I suppose this is Eat My Songs.
I was thinking Bops in the Kia Springfield.
Bops in the Kia Springfield.
Which I guess this should be episode 3 of.
An absolute bop. Oh, as in Deep Deep Trouble, Do the Barman, and
yeah.
then this one.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is for anyone who's been listening to this show for a while, we refer to the Beatles Revolver
Don't try to explain it.
a lot
we're, just,
for some reason.
we're just doing this, and people are going to listen to it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
This is our long-anticipated episode about the Beatles' 1966 hit Revolver.
Revolver.
Which, you know, we know what year it came out. We have repeatedly said that. And by the end of this episode, we're hoping that you will also know what year the album came out.
That's the minimum we're hoping to achieve.
Yeah.
So track 1, Taxman.
Do you want to talk a bit broadly about the album before we jump into Taxman? Or...
Well, I'll hit pause and say yes.
Okay, good.
Sorry, I thought we were jumping straight in.
So, we like the Beatles, right? We're fans of the Beatles and their work.
I'm a fan of the Beatles.
Which, you know,
yes.
you'd be hard-pressed to find a fan of the Beatles in this day and age, right?
In this economy.
Yeah, exactly. A few things that I would like to think about while we are listening to this album, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure I own the entirety of this album on Beatles Rock Band. Did you ever play Beatles Rock Band? The greatest rock band game ever made?
I think I played Vanilla Rock Band.
Vanilla Rock Band.
I don't think as
Songs
in
by Vanilla Ice.
no, as in unbranded.
Dun, 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 dun.
That was an extraordinary with dun 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. You ready for this?
No,
Good.
I don't think I ever played Beatles Rock Band. I don't think so.
Okay, well, one thing I would like to think about while we are recording this episode, maybe we can come back to this idea a few times, but I want to think about how revolutionary these songs would be if they featured now in the hit movie Yesterday.
Oh God, okay.
Which I'm going to put this up before the episode we just recorded where we went on a long rant about the movie Yesterday.
Yeah.
But I still think it's relevant, so if you don't know what the movie Yesterday is, wait until next week's episode, I guess. Where we'll get into it a bit more.
That's what this podcast needs: more twists and turns.
So we're gonna listen to some music. Not that much of it because, you know, copyright laws, but we're gonna listen to a little bit of the Beatles Revolver, and we're gonna talk about it on this Pods in the Kia Springfield, a podcast about The Simpsons.
Tell you how it will be.
Dun, dun.
You gonna sing over all of
There's
it?
one for
I hope
you,
not.
19 for me.
So Taxman is, of course, a song about high marginal tax rates amongst the very wealthy.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if this song would fly in this day and age.
In this economy.
A very rich person saying, from all the success I've had, I have to pay some of it back to the government now. That's a bit
I
annoying.
mean, at this point, it was like 95% or something like that. It was
Yeah.
for the top threshold, but still.
yeah.
I mean, look, you know my core philosophy is eat the rich.
Yes.
Yes, I'm on board with the Aerosmith method of dealing with the ultra-wealthy.
I see, yes.
Yeah. It is my opinion that we should cook and then eat Jeff Bezos.
The Amazon guy?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, I can get behind that.
Yeah?
My thoughts on this song, little less kind of overarching and grandiose than yours.
Yes.
Mine was the bass in the bridge is really sick.
Bass in the bridge.
Yeah.
Cat in the furnace.
Cat in the furnace.
So which part is the bridge, Nick? How does
Yeah.
music work?
I'm going to quickly see if I can find which part. Okay, so typically, and I'm no music theorist, but, chorus will be a motif that's repeated typically with the same lyrics, verses are kind of bits between that.
Yep.
Typically, and especially in Beatles style of music, the bridge is where the chord progression will change and you go to like a section in the middle that's neither verse nor chorus.
Sure.
Let me just see if I can quickly find the sick bass bit.
Yeah, I'm Retaxas.
I might not be able to find it. Huh.
Yeah. The tax man.
Oh. I really don't know where the sick bit was.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare to listen to. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I know. I mean, that can probably all get cut out.
No, we're keeping it all in, baby. So, what is my phone showing me here? That's fine. Okay, so that's Taxman, a song that's aged weirdly.
Taxman, yes.
Yeah.
And now to track 2, possibly my favourite song on the album.
Yeah. The song is called Eleanor Rigby.
Look at all the lonely
In a trench coat, getting promoted at work, but then sheds his disguise. Canine surprise.
That's the best tweet of all time.
Yep, that is by Kestrel Pie, Peter Selk. So that is Kestrelpi. There we go. I felt like we should give credit.
Okay, a few notes that I've got about this one.
Okay.
This is so fucking gothic. I love this song so much because something we'll get to soon is I struggle a little bit with Paul's poppiness.
Paul's poppiness.
And this is really rad and dark. And I fucking love it.
You fucking love it.
Next note, real strings sound so much better than synth strings. Because before we did this, so we're listening to this on my little Bluetooth speaker for these little clips, but before we're listening to it through a bigger system, and the strings have a real warmth to them, and I fucking love it.
You love a good warm string.
Also,
Look at you talking about a thing you care about.
I know. Look at the way I've arced up. And it is a bold, bold, bold choice for the second song on an album, because it is not only not like anything else on the album, but it's kind of just not like anything else.
Do we know who Eleanor Rigby is?
I think it is actually based on a real person. I've also got
They all
here.
are.
I've also got here that it is the most Paul McCartney name of all time.
Something that I would like to propose is when they say all the lonely people, where do they all belong? In my opinion, they belong on podcasts.
Historical artifact.
What are you looking up now? Looking up who Eleanor is? What the hell happened to my Nora?
An actual Eleanor Rigby was born on 29th of August 1895 and lived in Liverpool. She died
1895.
1895.
Just a Eleanor Rigby? Just someone?
Yes.
Okay.
That's literally the combinations of words that I said. And it's since said it's not known whether this Eleanor Rigby is actually the inspiration for the song, but the tombstone has nonetheless.
Wait, so there was only one Eleanor Rigby?
An actual Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah, that's just...
I gave no further detail.
I
than
know,
that.
just the way, like, that is being framed from what you're reading. It sounds like there was just one person named Eleanor Rigby, and they based the song on her.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Have you got anything to say about this song?
It fucks. It's great. I love it.
It is a very, very good song.
It is the best, or maybe second best song on the album.
Oh, I'd be interested to know what your best is. I said this might be my favourite. I actually know it's already not, but
I suspect we have the exact same feelings. On
I
this.
just got so excited by the hype of it. So, all right.
Okay, so
Transition into track 3.
yes, this track is called "I'm Only Sleeping," and frankly, same.
lift my head. I'm still yawning like I'm in the middle of a dream. Stay in bed, float upstream.
Float upstream.
Oh, all right then.
All right then. I'll
I-
just float over here then, shall I?
I enjoy that
We'll
because
come down here, Danny. We'll float down here.
I enjoy that because this is a little portable Bluetooth speaker. I'm just doing manual fades to and away from the microphone. Okay, so this song is famously, John recorded his singing parts when he was very, very tired.
Yes.
I also like to
Which is why the whole song is just about him wanting to go to bed.
Yeah, well, I think the lyrics were written before, and he decided to get the best performance. He'd make himself really tired and then do a vocal take. But I really like to imagine that meant he also recorded his vocal parts on Help when he really, really needed help. And he also recorded his vocal parts on Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds when he was in the sky with Lucy and some diamonds.
And some diamonds.
I like to imagine that John took a very literal approach to all of these things, which made 8 days a week a real bitch of a thing to record. They had to petition to get the calendar changed.
This song does kind of sound like, you know when somebody is like on the verge of sleep and like you're trying to talk to them? It does sound like this is the song you would write while you're in that stage.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, please don't wake me. No, don't shake me. And this song, my first notes on this song are, who cares about this song? No one.
Yeah, it's not a strong contender, I have to say.
Look, it's as far as like songs about sleeping go, it's not as good as Wake Up Jeff by the Wiggles.
Perfect.
Wake up, Jeff. Everybody's wiggling. Wake up, Jeff. Really did you?
I don't remember the
Wake
Wiggles.
up, Jeff. I'm missing all the fun now.
All right, well, hang on. If we're going to do
Wake
this,
up, Jeff, before the day's through.
if we're going to do this, then we need to go. The Wiggles. Wig, 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 wig.
We are the Wiggles. Yeah. They were friends with an octopus. An octopus had no deal being on land like that.
What was the name of the octopus? It was Dorothy the dinosaur.
Yep. It's Captain Feathersword.
Captain Feathersword. What was the name of the octopus?
Nuggets. Nuggets the octopus.
There's Wags the dog.
Yep. Very unimaginative name for a dog.
Wiggles octopus. Henry the octopus.
Was,
packed his trunk and said goodbye to the circus.
So was Wags another victim of nominative determinism?
Oh, fuck, we haven't talked about nominative determinism for a while. Oh, you made the elephant lighter.
I did. I made
Nice
a
one,
tweet about
Stampy.
nominative determinism the other day. I forget the exact context.
How'd
Probably
that
should
go?
have brought it up. I got about 150 likes, I think. Did okay.
I'll tell you how interesting this song is. We've stayed on topic for every other song. So, on to the extremely I had forgotten until we did the listen through. Love You Too.
Love you two. One man comes in the name of
Oh,
love.
I should have had the thing closer for that.
Goes on like this.
That almost did the Simpsons band.
Did it?
Wait, hang on.
No,
where was
I
it?
heard it. No.
Wait, now I can't hear at all where that was. Anyway, whatever.
Okay, it's fine.
I'll
Let's skip
just-
forward a bit.
yeah.
This is a song that I actually quite like, but it's very easy to forget that this song exists.
Yeah.
Like when you listen, you're like, "Oh right, this one, yeah."
Yeah, totally.
Track 4.
Track 4, The Hell Haven't I 4. The note that I've got here is that I know from being a Beatles nerd that it was Ravi Shankar who introduced George Harrison to the sitar, and when they
He's on The Simpsons.
when they first used the sitar, he hated the way they used it.
Yeah.
I don't think this was the first use. They may have got a better sitar player by this point, but
Strong possibility.
yeah. The second note that I've written feels too mean, so I'm not going to say it.
And this album was apparently their final recording before their retirement as live performers. That's an interesting note.
It is an
I
interesting
did my
note.
research. I looked at Wikipedia.
Very good stuff.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this one got much of a belt in the final live performances.
Yeah, unless they brought out Shankar himself.
I suppose so.
So what do we have after that? We've got...
You know, it's really depressing me that I can't remember the name of the venue at which the Beatles did their last show. I feel like once upon a time I
Is it
had
on
that.
some sort of rooftop? I mean, that's, the last show.
Yeah, but the one before that was at. It might have been Red Rock Amphitheatre.
Wasn't it Amy Stadium here in South Australia?
Oh, Football Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. As it would have been called in the 60s.
Probably. Yeah, so that's another song. Also a good song. You know, the Beatles, pretty good, in my opinion.
Pretty good.
Are you on to page 2 of your notes?
I am.
What the fuck is going on here, Nick? How dare you have more notes than me?
I've done a lot of double spacing in these notes.
I'm still distressed by this, frankly.
I apologise. I've got,
should.
hang on. 1, 2, 3 and a bit.
Nick, this podcast is about The Simpsons. And you seem
Okay.
to have no notes. Well, actually, last episode you had plenty. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. I've annoyed him. Okay, on to track 5.
Here, there, wait, and everywhere.
I need my love to be here.
I mean, this one's barely even a song as far as I'm concerned.
Of the year.
The problem... Look, I'm about to get real here.
I want her everywhere. This is a song where they fucking, I think.
Are they fucking?
They fucking.
Here, there, and everywhere?
Yeah, that's what he's singing.
Interesting.
I want her everywhere. Here, there, everywhere. They fucking.
I want her here. I want her there.
I want her everywhere.
everywhere.
I'm not okay, by the way.
I don't understand Paul people. Like, there are
People named Paul or people who are fans of Paul?
people who prefer Paul McCartney over John Lennon. I just can't get it, because you know what Paul does? Occasionally Paul writes amazing songs like Eleanor Rigby, which are gothic and dark and fucking sick. And then other times, the majority...
Really enjoying your commitment to Eleanor Rigby being like the darkest piece of... This is the real dark shit.
That is the real motherfucking deal, y'all. That is okay, hang on. I'm going to double down on that reference for a moment. This is the real motherfucking deal, y'all, is a direct quote of Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit sitting next to Aaron from Stained while he plays an acoustic version of Outside at some festival in the 90s. Anyway, a lot of what Paul writes, I've described as fucking lullabies for the dead and theme songs for cancelled 50s sitcoms. Like,
Lullabies for the Dead. Is that anything like Lullabies to Paralyze, the Queens of the Stone Age album?
I don't know, but I'm
The
quite...
most forgettable of the Queens of the Stone Age albums.
I'm quite happy with the phrase lullabies for the dead, but I just hate schmaltzy Paul. I'm so not into it. And you know what? This album has a few more entries from schmaltzy Paul.
Schmaltzy Paul.
So those are my notes for this one. Have you got anything for Here, There, and Everywhere?
Yeah, this song really reminds me of the, I guess it's probably, largely based on this, but the Spinal Tap scene where they sing that song, Listen to the Flower People.
Oh.
Listen to what the flower people say. Ah.
That was quite lovely.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And what's his face from The Simpsons? No, not Hank. Harry Shearer.
Harry Shearer.
He's in that movie.
Sure.
He's one of the Spinal Taps.
One of the taps.
Listen, it's getting louder every day.
Now, for any listeners who are playing along with this at home and you think, I didn't hang on, I didn't talk about the linguistic weirdness of Love You Too.
Okay, were you meant to?
Because it's not T-O-O, as in I love you in addition.
Yeah,
It is love you T-O.
Yeah, it's like I love you to do things.
Yes, it is. It's a fucking, what's that word? It's an imperative,
An imperative.
I think. Anyway.
And it was imperative that you discuss that on this podcast, Post in the Key of Springfield, a podcast about The Simpsons.
For anyone who thinks I'm only sleeping, bit of a weak song, love you too, not really my jam, Here, There and Everywhere, Jesus Christ, Paul, stop writing lullabies for the dead. It's alright, everyone. Ringo's here to save the fucking day. Oh, God. I'll make it stop.
Lived the man who
You
sailed
cut to like the middle. It gets good eventually, I think.
told us
Well, I'm just going to fade out so I can cut to the middle. And then I'll fade back in.
It's not that great. I like it when the horns come in.
Have I gone past the horns?
I don't know. I kind of like all this janky bullshit as well, if I'm being honest. I kind of have a soft spot for this one. Even if it is weird that they I mean, there's a whole album called Yellow Submarine, isn't there, that came out later?
Yeah, it's the...
That nobody cares about.
It's the soundtrack to the Sky of Blue! Sea of Green!
in our year
Yo!
submarine.
Submarine! Yeah, Yellow Submarine is the soundtrack to the movie of the same name.
I'm sailing
we peaked the fuck out of that.
in a yellow boat. Yeah, so this one is meant to be like a story for children. That's sort of the idea of it.
Yeah, I
and
guess so.
look, I like it, but it's not as good as Wake Up Jeff.
Fucking hell. You're right. It's not as good as Wake Up Jeff.
Yeah, everybody's wiggling.
I put it on par with, what's that song about? Bananas?
Taxman.
Yes. Yellow Submarine. My note for this one is, oh good, Ringo's here. This will save the album.
He's got blisters on his fingers.
He's got blisters on his fungus.
Oh, Thomas the Tank Engine was having a right bloody day. I was watching Thomas the Tank Engine the other day with my cousin's kids, but we had the volume muted, so I didn't get to hear the narrator. I assume it's not Ringo anymore.
No, I think he said,
Peace and love, peace and love.
peace
I'm
and-
out. I'm
yeah.
out. I've had enough of Thomas. Okay, peace and love, peace and love.
I didn't know Sean Connery was doing Ringo now.
That was not Sean Connery.
I know, I just wanted to be annoying.
My Sean Connery impression now is based entirely on a bit they do on the podcast Blank Check with Griffin and David, where they talk about him presenting something at the Oscars, where the theme of the Oscars that year was just that the movies are good. And just walking and saying, the movies. Everybody loves the movies.
And so tonight, our Academy invites the world to celebrate the magic of going to the movies.
Blank Check with Griffin and David is a better podcast than this one, if you'll give us something to listen to.
I don't believe that. And on to track, I've lost track of what we're up to now. 7, maybe?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 7.
7. She said, she said.
We just listened to this album and I already don't remember which song this is. Oh yeah, this one.
She said, I know what it's like to be dead. I know what it is to be sad.
Looking at my note for this one, and for some reason, I wrote the dumbest note imaginable for this one and
Yeah.
then promptly forgot it. My one note for this episode is nice, like a 69.
Fuck.
What is wrong with me?
My notes for this are John songs and the bridge. Once again, the bridge is really cool.
John Songs, wasn't he your basketball coach in high school?
No, that was Phil Smythe.
Oh, okay.
What? No, it wasn't. He was the coach of the Adelaide 36ers.
Yeah, the team you were on.
What? No, so this has... I think that stylistically, this might be my favourite style of Beatles. The jangly guitar and the rumbling bass, but not in the really poppy early way. But there's a kind...
You're
There's
like a jangle and a rumble.
Yeah, I do. There's a couple of songs like Rain. Rain has a really similar feeling to this. It's another John song. I just really like John songs. I mean, obviously when he's not being problematic and violent towards women.
Are you thinking of John Tron, the terrible YouTuber?
John Tron?
Yeah.
No, I'm not
He's
thinking
a
of
garbage
John,
person.
I'm not thinking of John Tron. I don't know who John Tron is. This song, another very strong bridge, another very strong
And
John song.
you're not thinking of Bon Ton, the city New Orleans, or the area of New Orleans? Sorry.
At least this is a pleasing... I think this is a nice bonding experience because you now get to realise how much fun it is to cut down someone who's being enthusiastic about something. It's intoxicating, isn't it?
And I did it with the dumbest joke. Bon Ton.
Bon Ton.
Nobody's thought of that. Nobody's thought of Bon Ton since True Blood went off the air.
True Blood.
I mean, probably a lot of people in New Orleans have. Seems like a beautiful place.
Okay, so have you got anything you want to say about She Said, She Said?
Oh, literally all I have is nice like a 69.
Sick.
Now on to side 2 of Revolver.
Now, this is where the album, for me, starts to become very stark in the differences between John songs and Paul songs. So keep in mind that feeling, that kind of minor feeling of She Said, She Said, which I really dig. And then we go into a fucking commercial for breakfast cereal, I guess.
Good Day, Sunshine.
Good day, sunshine.
Jesus.
Good day, sunshine.
I hope they do something interesting in the verses.
That'd
Shine.
be nice.
I need to laugh, and when the sun is out, It's something I can laugh about.
This is like
I've got something I can love about.
my thinking about this song is it is the very PG version of like describing the day after you've just had sex with your new partner.
I mean, this song literally has the line, I'm in love and it's a sunny day. Fuck off, Paul.
Oh, I love the sun, I do.
It's so sappy and sugar-coated and it does my head in.
Cereal commercial is right though, it does.
It's an ad for a breakfast cereal.
Well, you're
Like,
doing your job today, Mr. Sun. Oh, a lovely fucking bumblebee just flew by. It's that sort of bullshit.
And I feel like the feeling that I don't like in a lot of these Paul songs can best be described as
It's sort of like the dull side of the 60s.
Yeah, you can imagine. Yeah, exactly. You can imagine someone in a suit kind of trotting along to it as they go to their job as a high-powered banker to take all of George Harrison's money or whatever the fuck. All right, and your bird can sing.
Yes.
You've got everything you want.
And your bird can sing.
But you don't get me.
Well, we really,
Get
we're really peaking the levels on some of these ones.
I mean, that song is hard not to sing along to. It's
That's a
just
good point.
really cheery and fun and nice. I
Yeah.
really like And Your Bird Can Sing. It is a Lennon banger. This one slaps.
Yeah, this one I can get a lot on board with, and especially the guitar intro is so fucking atypical and complicated. It's cool. I like it. I like it so much.
And apparently, I mean, some people think that it's a diss track basically about Sinatra, which is fun.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, as in, wait, does that mean bird means woman, or is it bird meaning bird?
Well, it's I think And Your Bird Can Sing is like fucking you have everything. Like even your bird is able to sing. Like, you're
Right,
really,
okay.
you know, you're living La Vida Loca.
Wow, imagine a time when diss tracks were like, hey, you're really good and you have everything. Like, oh, Jesus, hurt.
Yeah, it had me thinking about like, you know, there was a diss track that came out last year that Pusha T put out against Drake. Because Drake made like some comment, you know, about Pusha T, like, oh, I don't know about that guy, ho ho. And then Pusha T put out this track, the story of Adidon, that just about destroyed Drake. Like, it should have ended his career probably, but didn't because, you know, none of this really matters. But fuck, what a diss track.
Sure.
Really just laid it down.
Pusha T.
Yeah, revealed like Drake's secret son that people weren't meant to know about. It was the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's a bit extreme.
Yeah, Pusha T, who put out Daytona last year. A good album, I thought.
Sure.
Also a good game to play in the arcade. Or just the pub.
Yeah, I miss playing Daytona 2.
Daytona, yeah, that's also a good song.
Daytona 2. That was my jam.
And Your Bird Can Sing. Banger of a track.
Banger of a track. There's a line that I thought was you can look at my erection, but apparently it's you can look in my direction.
At my erection.
At my erection.
My
Now,
name's Lennon.
if you want an aptly named song,
This
is called For No One.
You find that all her words of kindness linger on when she no longer needs you.
well, that's enough of that.
I don't hate this one because it's at least kind of about something. It's meant to be about Paul McCartney's relationship with Jane Asher, who I think I've only seen one film Jane Asher is in, based on a cursory look at. Again, Wikipedia. I'd give it a year, starring Simon Baker.
If I remember
Pretty
correctly,
bad movie.
If I remember correctly, Paul and Jane met on the set of Hard Day's Night. I think she was an extra there. This is another closing credits of a claustrophobically small British film about something like a housewife and her favourite egg cup.
Favorite egg cup.
Yeah, you know how there's
Oh,
that.
I love me egg cup, I do.
You know how there's that genre of British film where like nothing happens for 4 hours. They're just staring out windows.
Isn't that every movie in your opinion, though?
Yeah, but particularly British ones. This is the closing credits for it.
Sure.
I kind of don't mind when the muted French horn comes in. I think that's what it is. The I kind of don't mind that. Everything else can get to fuck.
Get to fuck. Speaking of things that can kind of get to fuck, Dr. Robert, the next song.
Hang on, I wasn't ready to cue that up.
Are we gonna get destroyed by huge Beatles fans for
Who cares?
only thinking like half of Revolver's great?
Ring my friend, I said you called Dr. Robert. Day or night, he'll be there anytime at all, Dr. Robert.
It's so poles apart.
This is a fairly typical like start of the third quarter of a Beatles album sort of song. Just like, hey, this is Doctor and he's fun. They're all just, you know. There's always like just these songs that are just like, well, this one's not really about anything that interesting.
This one is, though. It was about the guy that used to hook them up with all their drugs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not. I mean, that's not really that exciting to anyone other than the Beatles, though, is it?
Yeah, but I guess I don't know. See, I'm going to come down on a different side of that because something that slightly gets on my nerve. So, you know what? I may as well shoot for the stars at this point. The reason why I don't like David Bowie
Oh my god.
is that every song is like, here's 19 characters and you've all got to learn their names, but I've all made them up and there are spiders from Mars, and I'm like, fuck off, I'm not interested in any of this.
I don't agree with that, but okay, carry on.
And this, a lot of the Paul songs feel a little bit like, well, there's a housewife and an egg cup, and they've been broken up by the move of the house, and everyone's sad. Whereas,
Look, Nick, I get it. You have a screenplay.
whereas at least John songs are either like, hey, I'm not feeling great, hey, I don't like women, or there's this one person that I know, and here's some stuff about him. And I much prefer Dr. Robert is a guy that sells us drugs, here's a bunch of metaphors. I much prefer that over, oh, I thought about a sad woman and wrote a song.
I love that song, though. I thought about a sad woman.
I mean, that one's a banger.
Which I guess is basically just Norwegian wood, isn't it?
I once thought about a really sad woman in pants.
I went and saw a David Bowie tribute show the other day, and the guy opened by saying this is a tribute to the greatest performer of all time, David Bowie. So you think, okay, if you think he's the greatest performer of all time, you should not be doing a tribute show to him. You will not be able to pull it off.
Yeah, that's a imagine that. Jesus.
Don't do a Bowie impression. You got to get like 70% of the way there at best. So it's not going to happen for you.
I really enjoy.
Although his Space Oddity was pretty good, I have to admit.
I really enjoy in Dr. Robert the well, you're doing fine. Which all the instruments drop out and you end up with like a church organ coming in, and there's a series of cascading harmonies. That's lovely. A lovely bit of writing. Would you ever get that in a Paul song? No.
Who is your favourite musician of all time? Who's the number one for you? That's right, I'm asking the big questions, baby. Because I have a very boring answer.
I'm going to need some clarification. Do you mean who is my favourite songwriter, my favourite instrumentalist, my favourite singer, my favourite
Interpret it
band
however
leader?
you want. Just like, who's the person in music who you think is the most important to what you like and who you are?
I'm going to lose all credibility when I say this, but I don't care.
Fred Durst.
Yeah, now this red cap gets a rap from his critics. No, I think in 2019 I would say Fat Mike, the lead singer, songwriter, and bass player of NoFX.
Sure.
Because he has the most number of songs that I feel have changed my life in some way.
Sure.
5, 6, 7 years ago.
I really thought you were going to do 5, 6, 7, 8.
My boots getting baby is driving me crazy.
My
5,
obsession
6.
for possession. How's that song go?
My obsession for a Western, my dance floor days.
Okay. Romeo, Romeo, this is a song for
A cowboy
you.
god from head to toe. Want to make you mine, but get a line.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, there we go. We got
What a
there.
garbage song.
About 9 or so years ago, I would have said Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 because
Sure.
he had written the most amount of songs that had changed my life. But then he went so far off the rails that he can no longer see the tracks.
Okay.
So yeah, who's yours?
Well, knowing that mine's going to be a very boring choice, can you guess?
I see. What do you mean when you say boring? I feel
Well,
like
you hear it and we're like, well, that's a boring choice.
I feel like the only musician I ever hear you talk about is Sufjan Stevens.
It's not Sufjan, although he's up there.
All right. Question.
Yes.
You know how, like, the Grateful Dead had people that would follow them all around tour and then they were the Deadheads?
Yeah.
Are there people who go on a Sufjan safari?
Probably.
baby, Sufjan Safari.
They're still waiting for him to finish all 50 of his albums about every state in America. He's only done 2 of them, so... what was that? You don't like his song about John Wayne Gacy?
Are you gonna say Paul McCartney, and it's gonna be the end of the
not
podcast
Paul
for how
McCartney.
hard I've swung against him?
No.
Okay. Wait. If you say it's really boring,
The most boring one imaginable. I mean, the
Jeff-
music's not...
Jeff Buckley.
No.
Right. Okay. Oh wait. Is this is this a trap so that I swing hard against every well-loved musician?
No.
Bowie.
No. Do you want me to just say...
No, I want to keep doing this guessing game.
They've worked with one of the people you've mentioned so far.
They've worked with one. Okay, I've mentioned
On at least
9
one song.
I've mentioned 9 people. No, I actually have no idea.
It's Freddie Mercury.
Oh,
There we go.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, boring.
Not influenced by the current release in cinemas of Bohemian Rhapsody.
No, I haven't even seen that film. I refuse to.
Yeah, no,
it
that's-
sounds bad.
It does sound bad.
I mean, that's your general philosophy on movies, but
I sympathise with that position.
the movies.
Hey, James, I've got something that I want to tell you.
Oh my god, what is it? Are you okay? What is it you want to tell me?
I want to tell you.
That I am okay. That was not a joke worth setting up for. There's a really interesting tension in the chord and the keys in one part here.
This role reversal we're having is very interesting because I have one note on this song.
So I think what they're doing there is
When you're here, your family. It's about the Olive Garden.
well, I think what they're doing there is playing 2 notes on a keyboard that are right next to each other, like an A and a B or a C and a D, which gives that really curious little tension that they just hammer on for a while. I really enjoyed
Hammer
that
on
tension.
that tension.
Hammer on that tension, baby.
Maybe. My one note on this, and this is just indicative of like how I listen to music. My note on this song is, this is the point in any album where I'm just kind of looking forward to seeing how the album ends.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. By the time I get this far, I'm like, man, I wonder what the close is going to be.
It is really funny that, you know, on the one hand, old people will lament that, oh, no one sits down and listens to albums anymore. And then it's like, oh, but we all know that tracks like 8 and 9 are usually filler. Like, are we really missing much? All right, so this is... anything else you want to say about that one? No.
No.
This episode's going longer than I thought it would. Horns. What a horny intro.
I was alone, I took a ride, I didn't know what I would find there.
This is so fucking cabaret.
Well, the name of this song is Got to Get You Into My Life,
Yeah.
which is, incidentally, the thing that I said to you when we started this podcast.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
never made sense until now.
Yeah, it's all been building up to this Revolver episode.
I want to complain about something, which is why I'm going to fade the music back in.
You didn't run.
Sorry,
Yeah, this song is like a bit of a slow tease of a build-up. That was one of my notes. Like, you keep expecting the chorus, and it takes a long time.
You
And then
do.
the chorus is really good.
Yeah. It's a good chorus, except the one thing that... So this is like... Clearly Paul knew that I was going to complain about how everything sounds like closing credits to an anachronistically small British film. And so in this one, he tries to bring a bit more rock into it, and what he does
Got to get you into my life.
is a horribly fucking cartoony idea of a rock voice. I do not like that sound on Paul at all.
I do not like that sound on Paul. I do not like it, not at all.
No. There's a few times actually with backup vocals and stuff in this album where Paul's idea of being rock is just like blah, 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 and I'm just... It annoys me so much when you get John doing so many cool vocal deliveries, like the next one, of just sitting in the pocket with a slightly raspy throat. It's so much fucking radder than this weird, like...
Sitting in the pocket with a slightly raspy throat, by the way, is one of the weirder tracks on the second disc of the White Album.
I think maybe one of the issues that I have with Paul songs is you can very easily see people in sequins dancing to them. And I don't have anything against people in sequins, and I don't have anything against dancing. It's just that I like my music with a little bit more, I don't want to say a little bit more edge, because now it's like, oh, I'm so fucking edgy. I'm not. It's fine. Just...
For our next episode, should we resequence the White Album down to one album?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm keen for that.
It seems like a fun thing to do, right?
Anything else to say about this horny little ditty?
Number 9. The entire album would just be that.
Pretty much.
Number 9. No, this is a good song. I like it.
Alright, now on to my number 1.
And my potential number 1. I'm between this and Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah, okay.
Tomorrow Never Knows.
So am I, actually.
The presumably the inspiration for the James Bond game movie with a similar name.
So fucking cool.
Pretty sure this song was really fun in Beatles Rock Band as well. You see, you put this in the movie yesterday, people are like, oh fuck. How are you doing all of this? You're just one man. Nick's just kind of a bopping along.
It is so groovy and fucking... A few things I'd like to say about this song.
Yes.
A, it's rad because it never changes chord. I think it's a C from memory. It stays on a C the whole time. As far as a pop rock song goes, that's fucking unheard of. All the little loops, most people probably know this, all the little sound effects and stuff, the way they did that was all around Abbey Road Studio. They had people with tape reels that had these little sounds on them. They had seagulls, they had guitar that they fed in backwards. They had all these little things. And then to get the reel, because that was reel-to-reel tape stuff, to get that to go around the thing, they had people holding the loop on pens. So instead of having 2 tape reels, it was one tape reel and a pen, and the tape would go round and round and round. They were playing the whole time, and then George Martin, the producer of the Beatles, sat at a mixing desk and he would just randomly fade various sliders up and down and in and out, which means that recording can never actually be recreated in that same way. I mean, you probably could do it these days with sampling and stuff.
So I can't do it in the movie yesterday.
So fucking experimentally rad, and it's maybe my quintessential John song, because it's weird, it's angular, it's pointy, it's experimental, it's raspy, it's jagged, and it is fucking cool.
Literally, my only note for this song is this song fucks.
It's so good.
But also, I was just amused from over there where you said most people already know this before launching the explanation, because this is a podcast about The Simpsons.
I know. I suppose I was covering myself there because I don't know how well known that recording technique was, and I didn't want to present it as like, hey guys, I've got secret like knowledge, because it's probably quite well known. It's so fucking rad. And what else was I going to say about it? Oh, also the effect on John's voice. So they doubled it and they put a filter on it, like just an equalizer pass to take out some of the frequencies. And he said that he wanted his voice to sound like the Dalai Lama on a mountaintop. And it's
That's very specific.
It's one of those descriptions where the producers, like, you know, he said that and I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, twiddled some knobs, and he was like, yeah, that's it. And the producers go, oh, thank fuck, I got away with that. There's another story from a different song, I forget which one actually, but John...
I just very sadly realised I have a good story about this song as well, so you can carry
excellent.
on.
The other good anecdote like that is that John once walked into the studio and said, I want this song, whatever one they were working on, I forget which one, I want it to sound more like The Colour Purple. and George Martin just like...
you know what? This song really sounds purple.
He just slowly turned a knob and John's like, yeah, that's
you've
it.
achieved synesthesia somehow.
Synesthesia, yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Well,
No, that's fine. I really, really like this song.
now, the TV show Mad Men?
Yes.
About the madman of the 60s.
Yes.
Season 5 of that show, I remember watching and thinking, it seems a little lower budget than usual. Have they been saving money for something? And then, like, episode 8 of that season, Don Draper is given a copy of Revolver, like the album Revolver, I believe, and told to go and listen to it. Like, this is what the kids are into. And right at the end of the episode, he puts the album on and starts playing Tomorrow Never Knows. And he gets...
Why would he start on the end track?
Yeah, I know. It's just because it's the best song on there, I think. But he gets, like, 20 seconds in and just, like, turns it off in annoyance and walks away. And then the credits cut in and Tomorrow Never Knows starts back up again over the credits. I remember that being very cool because using the Beatles like the original recordings of the Beatles is like expensive as fuck. Like,
Yeah.
It really costs a lot of money to use them.
Yeah, totally.
And I remember they had me like, oh, this is why the show had obvious budget cuts. Because they had to save up to use Tomorrow Never Knows.
Yeah, that's
in
pretty
this
cool.
one episode.
That is radical.
Yeah.
Man.
It's like an event.
You know, when we were listening to this before the recording, I was nervous that we were going to have to retire the Revolver bit because I wasn't sure there were enough
Hey,
strong...
what year did Revolver come out in, by the way?
1966, my
Oh,
friend.
good, okay.
And
Thank you.
Which one's Bart? That's not going to
next
make that's not
episode.
going to make any sense yet. Fuck. But there are
So look forward to that bit about Nick not knowing who Bart is.
there are enough cool songs here that I'm happy to keep this bit in our canon.
Yeah, and it's good that we're getting it in when we are, because it was actually 20 years ago today that Sgt. Pepper told the band to play.
Oh, today?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, we've been Posing the Kid of Springfield, a podcast, of course, entirely about The Simpsons.
And nothing else.
Yep, you can find us on Twitter at Key Springfield. We're on Facebook, just look for us. You can email us at posingthekidspringfield@gmail.com to tell us about your favourite Beatles songs. Why not?
Sure.
Let's see, what's a good line to close the episode out on? Fuck it, Where's and Walzer, you did the line from the songs.
Well, you're feeling fine. Not a lot of people know that.
Very good.
Dr. Robert. He gives me Michael Caine. See what I did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, now we need some sort of sting. So I'm thinking, feel free to tell me to fuck off. Are there any songs from this album you feel comfortable playing on guitar?
Yeah, I could probably give Tomorrow Never Knows a go. I know that's a very
You're picking Tomorrow Never Knows.
I am.
Can you just strum it Eleanor Roll? Maybe that's more complicated. I don't know. I'm not a guitar man.
I'm also going to see if I remembered correctly whether it's a C. It's not a C major. I'll tell you that much. I used to be able to play Eleanor Rigby. Oh, fuck this song. Oh, I take it all back. Tomorrow Never Knows has heaps of chords in it, apparently. Relax and turn off your mind. Relax and float downstream. It is not dying. It is not dying. Lay down all thoughts, surrender to the void. Is it shining? Is it shining? That you may see the meaning of within. It is being. It is being. Oh man, I'm gonna need a lozenge if I keep going. Love is all and love is everyone. Is it knowing? Is it knowing? And so on.
Etc.
God, hang on.
In Springfield.
Love is all and love is everyone. In Springfield. In Springfield. Probably way too loud. I think you may... I feel like I say this all the time, but you may have to do some envelope editing to bring that down.
Yeah.
Let me just have a quick stab at... Man, it's been a while since I've done learning a song on the fly on a pod. On a pod?
On a pod.
On a pod. What the hell happened to my pod?
Little pod.
Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for?
Oh, the
Wait, I need to scroll down.
lonely people.
Oh, I get to play E major 7. E minor 7. All alone. Well, that's not right. All the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all belong? Wow. Alright, chorus is not as comfortable to play as the verses. Father Mackenzie, writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near. Look at him working, darning his socks in the night when there's nobody there. What does he care? All the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all belong? Fuck it, I'm in the mood now. You never should have started this, Jackal. This thing's going to go for as long as some episodes.
Probably going to cut it off at the end. Tomorrow never knows, but keep going.
No, we're going to do them all.
Fucking.
We're not going to do them all.
Because I'm the tax man.
No, that one's way too riffy.
Because I'm Retaxas.
Because I'm Retaxas.
Yeah, I'm Retaxas.
With my son Hugo. Oh, wait, I should do... Dog in a trench coat. I can't remember the tweet. Have you?
Yeah, let me bring it up. 1 second.
Do you want to do the words for it?
Dug in a trench.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Dug in a trench coat, getting promoted at work, but then sheds his disguise. Canine surprise.
Sick. All the lonely doggos, where do they all belong?
Ruff, ruff. Good day, sunshine.
Yeah, that one would be easy enough. Except
You don't want to do it. And your bird can sing.
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 Oh no, that's not what I want. Wow, I searched for no one, and the Beatles don't even rank in the search results.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
I'm going to use your bathroom. Feel free to keep making music.
I will.
Maybe I'll release it. But that could be a Patreon bonus episode.
A Patreon bonus episode.
Nick performs the entirety of Revolver.
Revolver.
For some reason.
Yeah, Nick performs the entirety of half of each song from Revolver. In the town, is that really? You're calling that a D? In the town, in the town where I was born, lived a man who sailed to sea. I don't agree with this tab. And he told us of his life in the land of submarine. No, that tab's all wrong. Got to get you into my life. She said... She said... Sure. She said... I know what it's like to be dead. No. Why don't I agree with any of these tabs? It's the children who are wrong. Ring my friend that said you called Dr. Robert. My friend that said you called Dr. Robert. Day or night, anytime at all, Dr. Robert. Dr. Robert. You're a new and better man. He helps you understand. He does everything he can do, Dr. Robert. Oh, B7. Dr. Robert. If you're down, he'll pick you up, Dr. Robert. I don't agree with A7. Man, I don't agree with so many fucking Beatles tabs, but I got to play B7. One of my favorite chords.